Let's talk about for each. For each is very similar to working with the for loop here. We've already looked at the for loop in our Hello World application, one of the first applications we were working with. Console applications, you can open up the Hello World folder and you can find this example. We're going to add to this using a for each statement here. Now, you see we're using a for each instead of a for loop. This is basically going to allow us to go through an array, for example. We can go through objects. We can go through all different types of things. This works and comes in handy a lot when you're working with ADO, when you're also working with the file system and XML, for example, and we'll see this later as we work. This is just to give you a good overview of working with for each. It's a great way to work, and I'll give you some more tips on working with for loops. Now, we just have our for each statement there. We're going to do the same thing that we did with the console application with the regular for. We're going to change our output variable to an S, so that's going to be a string type, and then we'll get rid of this, so it's going to work very similarly. And also note that I don't have the extra brackets. Since you only have one line, you don't need to put in the brackets if you don't want to, because it's going to clean up your code, make things look a lot better. And then we'll just put another console write line there, so we can just know when that's going to start. And then we'll just build it. Note that it starts, but we didn't add any command line arguments there, so we have to go in, and we'll actually bring this into our other command prompt. See, it does the same thing, but we're going to actually change to that directory. We have to get that in there. We'll go here, we'll copy our folder where it is, come back in, do a CD, paste, change to that directory, do a dir for the directory. Now we see that we have our Hello World there. We'll just put a bunch of different command line arguments there, as you can see. We'll move this up. As you can see, all separated by spaces. And there you go. We have the arguments way of doing things. As we did in the first example, I just have this extra character added there to the end. And then we have the for each way. Same thing happens, just a different way to process it. We'll see more on this later. And you also get the idea of how it works and how to make things work the way you want them to. This is working with a string type here, and this type is matching the array of strings here. So what it's saying is, for each string that's in that string of arrays, that variable here, which is a string of arrays, we want to do something for each of those. And then you can write that out. You can do more advanced things as well, of course. This can have the same effect when you're going to the file. You're bringing back directories from your file system. You're bringing back files from your file system. Then you can work within that structure. And if you're familiar with many different languages, then this is going to make sense. You're going to be able to use it throughout the programming. Definitely take a look at the file system and data processing, and I like to use for each. It's much nicer than actually having to create this all the time. You actually have less conditions to worry about because you're dealing with something that is a collection of something that has a beginning and an end already, and then you can process it that way. You can also do this as we did it here, and what we do is because we're using an array, we take the length. As long as I is less than the length of our arguments, then we're going to be able to process this for loop and then increment by 1. Different way of looking at it.